So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi villains and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, and it's a pre-season preview special. I suppose the season preview special, considering the pre-season is over, Paddy. If we're going to get into semantics, I think that's what we'll call it. So it's a season preview special, and we're going to have a couple of guests on tonight. We've obviously got myself and Paddy are going to give our murmurings and our views on what way we feel this season is going to go. But we've got some really nice guests on. We've Josh Norris is going to be joining us. We've Pete, Canadian Villa fan from the Holy Trinity show, and we're going to finish up with our positivity
overload.
What do I want to call him? Yeah, Mr. Positivity, even from Ty Bracey, and I'm really looking forward to you guys hearing all those. But before we get through to our guests, we're going to rob your airwaves for a while, for maybe 5-10 minutes, just to give us our own views, give you our own views of what way we feel the season is going to go. And Paddy, it's been a long time coming, I think, this season, even though we've only had a short off season. I don't know. It feels like we've needed it to start, I think, now, so that we've other talking points, because the talking points that we have are kind of tired and old now, and I think we need the season to start so we can create our new future.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's just about looking forward now and grabbing the bull by the horns, starting with this weekend. So we're in the throes of it, as people may know. There's a podcast seems to be going out every day from either us or you on your own, Neil, or with other guests. So we're back in full swing. There's a lot going on, and really looking forward to the new season now that we can start planning without our player that won't be named. And we'll look forward with positivity to this season.
Absolutely, and let's do that. I suppose it's a season of unknown. It's a season whereby, I don't think anyone can truly say they know exactly what to expect from Aston Villa this season. But what I think we can expect from Aston Villa is, I think we can expect a level of coherency that maybe we wouldn't have seen or wouldn't have expected previously before, Paddy. And what do you think about that yourself? Like, even though I couldn't tell you what formation they're going to play, I couldn't tell you where they're going to play two up front, I couldn't tell you who their midfield three are going to be, I'm still really confident.
Yeah, I suppose, but I'd rather have Watford at home this weekend. They haven't had. They've had a similar type of problems as us. We've had a couple. They've had a couple of matches cancelled as well. So it's been a stop-start pre-season for them. We no doubt they've got stuff going on behind the scenes and behind closed doors friendly. So it's going to be a tough game, but one I would expect us to go and grab the bull by the horns and hopefully deliver 3 points with what we have on offer, albeit we may be without Emi Buendia, but that remains to be seen. But as you say, they'll announce the team on Saturday. We'll look at it and probably butcher up what the tactics are going to be or what the formation is going to be, and so be it. It's the excitement of seeing what happens when they go onto the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, Paddy, like Watford are. Look, I think people are kind of chalking us down to beat Watford, obviously after coming back up from the Championship. But I think the start of this season, I think the first 3 games of this season are quite pivotal, and we will go into it more and more as the days go on, and a good start is going to be pivotal. Give us a kind of a prediction for what your first 3 games are going to be. What do you think we're going to get? Not what do you expect, but what do you think we're going to get from those games?
I think we're going to get 7 out of the 9 points. I think somebody will let us down along the way. Somebody will take 2 points off us and get a draw. But I'm expecting nothing less than 7 from the first 3 games. I don't think that's outrageously. No. I think we can do it. I think we could possibly get 9, but I think realistically, I'd be happy with 7.
I think we're going to get 9. I'm eerily super confident, probably stupidly slow, but I'm super.
I'm still a little bit worried about the whole way the season has landed on us and everything that's gone on in the last 2 weeks. So for that reason, I think this one could be the tough cookie of the three. This, going our first time back in front of a full stadium away from home, tight little ground of Vicarage Road, great stadium, real old-fashioned stadium. That old cliche, it's a tough place to go. It is a tough place to go. There'll all be tough places to go this year because every stadium for the first, I would imagine, 8 to 10 weeks is going to be absolutely rocking because people just can't wait to get back and do normal stuff again. So for that reason, I think this could be the one that stumps us of the three. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got 9 points, but I'm expecting 7.
Yeah, I kind of like people are kind of just chalking down, me included, that Steve Bruce isn't going to come out of the traps with anything at all. Brentford are going to be finding their feet in a new league, they've spent some money, they've spent good money, and they've got a good manager and a good system going there. But I think we were experienced enough in the league now. If we truly are only 18 months away from where Jack Grealish wanted to be, and that was a big statement by Dean Smith today. I think if we truly are only 8 months away from where he wanted to be, considering the team he went to, we need to go and get 9 points over the next 3 weeks. Now, look, 7 points isn't the end of the world. 6 points isn't the end of the world. 3 points isn't the end of the world. But I suppose, look, let's act like big boys now, that we're in the league. Christian Purslow said we need to be in the league 3 years before we can really say that we've gotten there and we've achieved things. This is our 3rd year in the league. Let's go out there and emulate what we did last season, I think. And with that in mind, Paddy, I suppose, where do you feel the league is going to go as a whole? What way do you like give us a prediction for your top 4? And do you know what? Give us a prediction for your top 4, and I'm going to hold you to the order of them as well.
Okay. I'm going to go with Chelsea as champions.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I think
my dog didn't even like that. I don't know. Could you hear that? My dog didn't like it.
I think Chelsea are going to be the team to beat this year. I think the way they finished the end of last season, went on to win Champions League. Obviously, they're very, very tough to beat, and I think they pose the biggest threat to Manchester City, who will probably finish second, is where I have them. Might surprise a few people. I have Leicester in 3rd and Liverpool in 4th. And the dog is not happy.
The dog is not happy anyway. Whatever you said, I don't know.
The dog must be a Man City fan. That's the only conclusion I can come to, Neil.
I don't know. Well, my top 4 is different. I think the league is going to be played out in Manchester this season. I think Manchester United are going to be a completely different animal this season. I think Varane, I think Sancho are going to offer them an awful lot. I think they began to kind of hit form, as so does my dog, again over the course of last season.
I see. He wasn't happy with that statement.
Yeah, he wasn't. Every time I mention Man United, anyway, he hasn't been happy with it. But I think United will run City close. Chelsea, I think it's probably going to be a 3-way battle at the top. I just don't see. I'm not quite sure Liverpool, without making any signings. Yes, they get Virgil van Dijk back, but I think they do need to move for somebody. I think they need to move for somebody probably up top. I think maybe up top's gone a bit stale for them, and then they might need to move for somebody up there. Chelsea obviously just rubber stamped Romelu Lukaku today. I completely forgot about that just before as I started doing my prediction. But I still think it's going to be a 3-way battle or a 2-way battle between the two Manchester teams, and then Chelsea will slot into 3rd place, and then it'll be really, really interesting to see who gets that 4th place with between Leicester and Liverpool. But I'm going to put my neck on the block. I'm going to say Man City will walk it again. Well, not walk it. Man City will win it. United 2nd, Chelsea 3rd, and I'm going to say Leicester 4th. I think we could see. I think potentially Liverpool, without any signings the way it is today, I would just have to think that they're a year older. Teams have had an extra year to figure them out. And we saw some of their defensive displays without Virgil van Dijk last year. Does he come back, hit the ground running like he did before? I think there's just enough questions there about Liverpool, probably much the same as ourselves, to kind of have people questioning whether we'll finish top 4. And I like Liverpool. I would like them to finish top 4 over definitely 2 of those teams that I named in the top 4.
Yeah, most of them.
Exactly. What way do you think? I suppose we talk a small bit about Villa players. because I don't want you to tell me where you think Villa are going to finish until the end. Like, actually, before we get on to that, we've talked an awful lot about the top of the league. Who's getting the chop? Who's going to get relegated, Paddy?
I think this is going to be the interesting one this season. I think there's a couple of teams, just petering on the edge there now over the last couple of years, and my choice might surprise people. So I think Watford are going to finish bottom. I don't think they've done enough coming up again. I also think Norwich haven't done enough, and I think they'll go straight back down. I think they like balloon payments in Norwich, and they're like the old Villarreal, the yellow submarine, bobbing up and bobbing down. So yeah, and then the next one is the difficult choice, and I've gone for what might surprise a lot of people. I've gone for Brighton to be the third one to go down.
Elaborate on that, because I like the Brighton setup. I like their setup. I like their manager.
I think they've just been marauding through the league since Chris Hughton went. They've always been sitting around 15th, 16th, never really pushing out the boat with signings or whatever. They're after losing Ben White, who I think is a fantastic player. I just think, from what I can see, that the love has gone out of it for whoever's making the decisions there, be it whoever's putting the money in or whatever. And I just think it's been a couple of years coming, and I think it'll happen this year. I haven't said that they'll probably qualify for Europe.
I actually think that they will push on from maybe 15th to maybe up the table a couple of positions, and the reason for that is because Moses Caicedo, you remember McAllister. I think they've got a lot of young players in there that are that we maybe don't know about yet, that haven't really kicked on in the Premier League yet, but are primed to do so. And I think that the Potter's a pretty decent manager as well. Yes, they do have to replace Ben White in some way, shape, or form, but I can't argue massively against it. But I am surprised you're one of the first people that's mentioned Brighton, and I think I agree with you.
It was a tough choice. It was literally a flick of a coin between them and Newcastle, because they're both been in similar positions the last few years, and it wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle were in that dogfight this season either.
I'm in the tough position now, whereby I've just realised that I have to remember what I've said now, because I have to record 3 other people. And remember what I've said. But look, so if I contradict myself throughout the rest of the recordings, I do apologize. But I'm gonna say that the 3 that came up are going to be 3 to go down. That's what I think. I think if somebody is in danger of going down, I think Southampton are in danger of going down. I think replacing Danny Ings with Adam Armstrong, I think he's just that small bit too short for the league. I really like him as a player. God, could he score goals in the Championship? And is he exciting to watch? I just think as a striker, I think he's a small bit small, and plus he's had his ups and downs as a player. He went down the leagues, things weren't kind of going right from a personal level, from what I've read, and he's come back and he's been a real success story. And I think you remember Borca as well, the Chelsea player, the Albanian guy who was in the who was with I think it was Vitesse last year. He's come in as well, so they've replaced Danny Ings with those 2 young guys, unproven in the Premier League, and I think they're going to need goals. Che Adams isn't exactly a massive goal getter either, and hey, let's say they lose James Ward-Prowse, I think you'd have to be really, really worried for Southampton, considering what they have at the moment. That and the fact they have an erratic record under Ralph Hasenhüttl. Not that he's a bad manager or anything, it's just that when things go right for them, they go really right. When things go wrong for them, they go really wrong. So I think there's somebody there. I think there's something there that we should to bear in mind, that Southampton won't be out of the mire either. I think they will be close to the bottom. Who do you think Villa's top scorer is going to be, Paddy?
Tough one, and I'm going to go with, just basing this off of how I watched them play last weekend, as it going to be just shaded by Ollie Watkins, and I think he'll score more this season than he did last season. But I think Ings will play slightly behind them rather than up top. But I think if there's any decision to be made on game time, it'll be Ollie Watkins that gets the nod, short purely on his work rate. Ings will be the one that's sprung from the bench, and I don't mean that in any bad way. I think they could be equally as good as each other, but I think Watkins will just shade it.
I think I'm the same. I think Watkins is going to score both 18 goals this season.
The only thing that could change that is if we lose Anwar El Ghazi and Danny Ings takes the penalties, then we could be looking at a different story. But there's a lot of water under the bridge before.
You've to win penalties to score them, Paddy. That's the other side of it. That's the other side of it. I think Ollie Watkins is going to be our top scorer. I do think we will continue to see the trend of getting goals from the wide men. I don't think that was a fluke. Even if we do change the way that we play this season, I think that they're going to have to build that into the game, that those wide players will be given freedom once we get to within 25 yards of the goal, to move around and to come off their wings and whatever. Because I don't think our midfield are going to be as bombing forward as we think this season. Once again, we've nothing to base this on. Nothing to base it on whatsoever. But I think Ollie Watkins is going to be the man. I think we're going to see 18 goals from him this season. I think we'll be delighted because I think we'll have 2 goal scorers, or maybe even 3 goal scorers in double figures this season. And the more you can spread the goals, the more you can spread your areas of attack, the better you're going to be. Less likely, less predictable you're going to be. How many clean sheets?
I have a question for you, Neil. A one-word answer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're fast forwarding 1 year. It's the 11th of August, 2022. One-word answer. Is Dean Smith still Aston Villa manager?
That was going to be my novelty question for you. I was going to say, predict the week in which we first hear Smith out. That was going to be my novelty question, should I say? But I think this time next year, Dean Smith is still the manager. I think that the ownership are, I think they're intelligent enough to know that we're on a good standing at the moment. I think they're intelligent enough to know that, yes, there will be a small reacclimation period. Hopefully we don't have it. Hopefully it's been happening already in the off season. There'll be a reacclimation period, and I think that they will be very short-sighted to get rid of Dean Smith this season, mid-season, based on the fact that we've lost Jack Grealish. And I don't see, unless we are absolutely tank it all together, and our Sheffield United Mark II, our Aston Villa 2016 Mark II, I don't think we see the back of Dean Smith. I think Dean Smith stays. And I think Dean Smith is going to actually show that he's a proper coach this season.
I really should have known better than to ask you for a one-word answer, shouldn't I? So my one-word answer, me being the man of fewer words than you, is yes.
Great. How many clean sheets will Emi Buendia have next season?
Well, I hope Emi Buendia doesn't have too many clean sheets.
He'd be playing in midfield, I think. Emi Martinez,
I'm going to go for 16 and breaking the record.
Oh, 16 clean sheets for Emi Martinez. 3 people getting in double figures and in scoring. Jesus, we've definitely drank the Kool-Aid tonight.
Wouldn't that be magic?
Wouldn't that be absolutely magic? Yeah. And look, I don't see any reason why not. Look, when we conceded goals last season, we conceded goals in batches. But when we didn't concede them, we kept clean sheets, we won. That's what you want. That's international football stuff. Like we've just come out of the Euros and the Copa and the Gold Cup, and you keep clean sheets, you win tournaments. That's the way it goes. And that brings me on to my next question of, will we win a cup this year, Paddy?
Will we win a cup this year?
I suppose, do you think we will win a cup this year?
Why break the habit of 25 years and say we're going to win a cup? No, I think the league will be completely our focus this year. We might get a bit lucky and get a cup run, but I don't think it's going to be the focus this year. I think Europe it's do or bust for us. So I think they'll be concentrating on the league. But if we did get a lucky run along the way, who knows?
He's still getting into Europe for winning a cup, though.
Yeah, but it's a lot harder to win a cup, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think the worst part, you get good results and good draws along the way, and then like last year or the year before, you get to Wembley and then the decision changes a game, and
that's it.
Yeah, and that's the worst part of it. That if that corner isn't awarded for City to score their opening goal, we don't know where we're at. So that kind of stuff bothers me when it gets to cup final stage, and you see it across the board in all countries.
Yeah.
But not my preference. My preference is to get into Europe through the league and push on that way, and that's how I'd like to see it.
Yeah, you're not going to say no to a cup. I know. What you
Oh,
mean.
absolutely
I know
not.
what you mean.
No.
So how are Aston Villa going to score their first goal of the season?
Um,
And who will score it?
Our first goal of the season is going to come from a corner, a set piece.
Oh, Jesus, Paddy. So 16 clean sheets. This is unbelievable stuff.
No more Neil singing, because that ship has sailed. But
I'm okay with that.
This is going to be rough and tumble this weekend, and I think it's going to come from a corner. Maybe even an Ezri Konsa header.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? Well, at this time, they won't be able to take the goal away from him against Watford. If he does score, that's what we'll say. I don't care whether it's a header or whether it goes in off his arse or whatever. I just hope that if he scores at this time, they won't be able to take it away from him. I think Villa's opening goal is going to be a goal from John McGinn. I don't know why. I'm just going to say John McGinn. I'm going to say John McGinn pops up the edge of the box and has a shot, and it goes in off the bottom of the crossbar like that disallowed goal against Arsenal last year. And it was just a banger. So that's what I'm going to go for. And how do you think Villa are going to concede their first goal this season, Paddy?
Jeepers. Whatever way it comes, I just hope it's not on Saturday. I'd like to see us get a good start with a clean sheet, go and win the game. And, if we've got to concede, make sure that we're far enough ahead to be worrying about it. But we've managed to concede goals from all different types of circumstances, so it could literally be anyway.
Header at the back post, I was expecting, Paddy, because that's how we conceded goals last season. But I don't expect us to concede goals like that. As I say, our first goal will be conceded in week 14, and it will be a penalty, and it won't really matter because we'll be runaway leaders of the league at that stage.
We must be playing Man U on week 14, are we?
I didn't check. I really should have. No, I might pop it in. I might paste it in afterwards, just to paste it in there. Make sure that it's consistent. So, Paddy, who do you think is going to be Player of the Year this year?
Player of the Year, with 16 clean sheets, it could be Emi Martinez again. But I am going to go for a little Argentinian wizard and go with Emi Buendia. I think he's going to be the crowd favourite this year. I think he's going to set Villa Park alight. I think the fans are going to warm to him very early. He's going to get loads of assists. He's going to get a few goals himself. And I think he'll be our new superstar. And fingers crossed, that's my great white hope for this season.
I'm going to go with Ezri Konsa. I think a defensive player is going to get our and no reason other than I'm on record for saying it already, and that one I do remember. But I think he gets recognition this year. I think this year he explodes, and he he's deserved a lot of plaudits. Last year he was top notch. And this year, you even see it a bit more. You saw it a bit more towards the end of the last season. You see it a bit more in preseason. He's beginning to growl and snarl at people, become a leader, and I think he's ready to make the step up now. And I just see great things for him this season in Ezri Konsa. I think he's going to get the recognition. So I'm going to pick him as my Player of the Year. And I'm going to pick as a young Player of the Year. I think Jacob Ramsey is going to get Young Player of the Year. I know there's a lot about Carney. There's a lot about Philogene Bides. I just think when the bullets are flying and when there's live ammunition coming at you, I think he's going to go to the guy that played well last season. And I think we could actually see in the early part of the season, Jacob Ramsey starting a more withdrawn role, while we're waiting for the likes of Douglas Luiz and potentially another midfield signing to come. So I think that'll give him a foothold within the team, and Jacob Ramsey could be the man for me for Young Player of the Year. But there's a hell of a lot of people to pick from.
Absolutely. I'm going to go for Carney. I think
I left you with an easy one.
Yeah, I think he's going to step up and see an awful lot of football. But I do believe Jacob Ramsey will see an awful lot of football this year too. We saw signs of him toughening up and growing up throughout last season. I think he'd be trusted. I think Philogene Bides will be trusted at times. Again, a lot now will hinge on what we do in the next few weeks and who comes in and who comes out. But I don't envisage those 3 players going anywhere. I think he's hung his hat on them and said they can be our wild card because they don't have to be named in the 25. So,
I think so.
Happy days.
Happy days indeed. Paddy, where are Villa going to finish? Give the people what they want.
This is the most difficult question of all. And I'm not going to be overly positive. I'm not going to be negative
16
either.
clean sheets.
But I see an improvement. But I think, bearing in mind what's gone on, I'd be happy with 8.
That's great. That is overly positive. I think that's a really positive.
Overly positive is qualifying for Europe. That's.
You could still get into Europa Conference in 8.
I think this is a big season for us, and I'd ideally want us to see us qualifying for Europe through the league. I think that will cement us in where we want to be and enable us to push on and sign players next season of that ilk that are established players playing European football, and will attract the good younger players to our club. So I think that's the next step. I'd love to see it happen, but I think we'll come up a little bit short, and I think I'd be happy enough with 8 as much as I would love European football.
Yeah, I'll take that. In my own view, I think anywhere between 7 and 10. But as I say, I have another 3 pieces to record to this podcast. So you can hold me to whatever one of my predictions comes true. You can hold me to those. But I'm certainly going to hold you to all of yours as well. No, hopefully it's going to be a great season. And yeah, as I say, guys, thanks very much, Paddy. Thanks to everybody here. We're going to have a couple of more people popping on the podcast. And next, we're going to hear from the wonderful Josh Norris. And he is coming up next after this. So we have the wonderful Josh Norris is coming on next to give us his thoughts on Aston Villa over the coming season. And I'm just going to pop him up on the screen now. Josh, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. What a time to be alive. What a time to support the mighty Villa. And Neil, what a time to talk to you. I've watched all of your content, so it's wonderful to actually appear on some of it.
Thank you so much. We spoke last season. I can't remember what portion of the season it was. I think it was early on in the season, and actually it was
preseason. It was before we signed anyone.
What was it? Just before we? It was actually, yes, because I remember. I thought we maybe had signed somebody, because the thing that stuck to me was you were so engrossed in Villa, and you were so engrossed in the fact that we just stayed up the season previous, and where the team could kick on, and your 5 a.m. transfer alarm. So I referenced it below, and it always stuck with me. And every time I see you post it on Twitter, I'm going, wonder does he still have his 5 a.m. transfer alarm? Because that's dedication, man. That is dedication.
I'll be honest with you. The alarm is natural. It's not one that I set. I typically set alarms. I'm not one of these like super early morning people, but typically like 7:30, 7:45, maybe 8 o'clock if I want to really relax that day. But no matter what, especially last week, Neil, when it's like the heart, the heat of transfer season, and like things can change on a dime and I don't want to miss it, my natural clock wakes me up at like 5:45, 6 a.m. And then I immediately turn over, and this is what they tell you not to do, and search and catch up on the news of your tweets and Alex's tweets and everyone's tweets. And yeah, we're here. Do I look rested enough, Neil? Do I look rested enough?
You look amazing, Josh. You look amazing in 4K and everything. It's just absolutely superb. There's a reason why I haven't got a 4K camera yet, because actually, if I did, maybe a Botox company might sponsor.
Before we get going, Neil, by the way, there have been some shocking developments this summer. Okay.
Yes.
Really, really shocking developments with the Villa, but maybe the most shocking is that you are shorter than 6'2". In my head, I've always imagined you, and when I knew we were going to meet in person one day, I thought you would just tower over me. But I'm stunning development when I heard that. I'm
sitting on like about 8 pillows here underneath me just tonight. But people do say that. I think it must be something to do with broad shoulders or something like that. Yeah, if you've ever seen the cartoon Mighty Mouse, that's probably the closest thing to me at the moment. I know I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm probably about 5'9". But I'm not 6'2".
You're 6'2".
Not 6'2" yet.
Yeah, we're all the same size online, Neil.
Exactly. Yeah, I can be whatever size you want me to be. But it's no, as I say, I'm absolutely delighted to get you on, because we chat quite a lot on Twitter, and your passion and your enthusiasm for the Villa is I'd go so far as to say it's unparalleled on Twitter. And with the new season coming up, it's always great to get other viewpoints. I even said to you just beforehand that myself and Paddy are talking to each other the whole time, so I can nearly finish his sentences and what his previews and stuff like that are, and that's not really fair to kind of put that content out week in, week out, month in, month out, and year in, year out. So I'd absolutely be delighted, what to get your views. Probably, I suppose, firstly, should I say, on the opening day. We're all looking forward to it. What's your views in that first game against Watford? Is it a potential banana skin, or is it something that you think the team is going to relish and progress through?
I think the biggest shock is going to be the hour beforehand when we get the team sheet, because that's going to tell us a whole bunch. Like right now we can speculate maybe 3 different directions that this team goes in, depending on the health of some players or what formation they're going to go, or what they've seen behind the scenes in training. I will say it's pretty typical the last couple of years. The common verbiage from Dean has been, well, I want these transfers in early so I can get them up to speed and everything. Mm-hmm. And while I feel like that was, almost impossible for Villa other than Emmy, it was easily just as impossible for every other team out there too. And so when you consider that and consider the first, 3 or 4 matches that Aston Villa have this season, that gives me some hope. It gives me some hope that they can gel and be on the right track, and it's going to be a change somehow in formation and style and everything. So I'm just like you, eagerly anticipating the hour beforehand and the team sheet. What formation do you think they'll roll out?
I'm going to pass on that question because it's going to be an interesting one. And to be honest with you, I don't think we'll have a clue until 15 minutes into the game. Right. I think the easy answer to that is without Leon Bailey being on the bench, without potentially if Wendy isn't there, I think we go for the tried and tested and the safe 4-2-3-1 option. Now, who starts in there? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's going to be something like Nakamba and Jacob Ramsey at the base of it, and then McGinn a small bit further forward, or maybe they play just a flat tree in the middle. I have no idea. With Danny Ings being there, and now that Watkins is fully fit, you might go with a 4 across the middle. We could even see Conor O'Halloran start. I genuinely don't know. It's open there.
Ashley Young started on the wing. Obviously, El Ghazi's out. I mean, there's
or even in that little pocket.
Right. Yeah. So many different permutations. I did read a Sky Sports article earlier this morning where I think a lot of us, because it just doesn't feel like it's a natural thing for him in his past, and he's kind of done it as a last-ditched effort to throw 2 strikers out there on the pitch. That it seems like he's just going to refuse to play Ali at left wing, which I totally understand. Like he every occasion that it pops up says that he's his ideal, pressing forward. Mm-hmm. So that shadow striker, 2 striker dynamic, because I think both have the ability to, come closer to the rest of the teammates, but then also Ali's just immediate pace and acceleration to work behind is something that, he's so close. I'm jumping ahead here, but so close to. He had a prolific season, but 4, 5, 6 more occasions that, at least in preseason, to me, it was readily apparent. I don't know if this was his time with England or wherever, but it seems like he has taken his game up to the next gear. I just hope that. Look, if we get them working simultaneously and synchronically immediately with him and Danny Ings, that's going to be magic. But even if it takes them, 3 matches to get there, I'm okay with that too, because that pairing is something where the confidence in front of goal, once they have those chances, that's fantastic. But then they also do have, some similar skill sets that this team's kind of built around, but also some different ones as well.
And I agree with that. And I think that himself and Danny Ings can play together, or whether they will play together, or whether they will play traditionally the top 2 together. I don't think that will be the case, but I think that we're going to try. I think we probably got a glimpse slightly of an option for Aston Villa last season when we played Burnley and we just rained in crosses into the box.
Yeah.
We didn't really have anybody in there.
Don't remind
we
me.
did, but I think we were just trying to hit Watkins every time. But if we do need to go two at the top, Danny Ings, parked at the front post, Watkins parked at the back post, I'd be a lot more confident considering that they are two goal scorers. And as you mentioned, Ollie Watkins scoring so many goals last season. And obviously Danny Ings being the second most prolific striker after Harry Kane and Mo Salah in the Premier League over the last 2 seasons. That has to bode well, I suppose, for Villa's goals. Just on an aside there, how many goals, make a prediction on Ollie's goals. How many goals do you think Ollie Watkins would score this year? Do you think it's going to be more than last season or less than last season based on the fact that Ings is here?
So last season was 14 or 16. It was one of the two, right?
16?
14.
Yep.
Okay. And again, I'm a maniac. I consume all Villa content out there. So, and there's never been a better time to be a Villa fan because of you, because of Dan, because of Villa Talks, because of everyone, right? You're all wonderful. I last time heard that they suggested that Danny Ings was going to be the leading scorer. I actually think it's going to be Ollie. And 18 to 20, I think, is absolutely in the realm of possibility. Again, maybe it's just my eyes deceiving me, but it just feels like, and I understand that he obviously came from the championship, so it's maybe not as big of a jump from, the Bundesliga or Serie A or one of these other leagues into the PL, because that has been something that has shocked me. It really does take those players that do that a year to match up and understand the physicality, the nature of what's called, what's not, the size, the strength, the speed, all of it. And like the game doesn't really slow down for them, at least to me, until they've played an entire season. And I think Ollie just will know immediately what to expect in that regard. And it was just inches in so many cases, either hitting the post, slightly offsides that might not be offsides this season. And our more reliance on him, along with maybe better passers through the middle of the field and not just crossers from the wings, that to me is going to line up for an even better and more productive season in front of net for Ollie.
I hope so. I hope for him on a personal level, because he was in and around the England squad. He's going to need to score goals to stay in and around the England squad. Danny Ings was in and around the England squad at the start of last season too, and then a couple of injuries and maybe, not as prolific as, or maybe just, I suppose, father time catching up, even though he is only 29. Gosh, here's me, 36, trying to sell off players, or trying to retire players at 29. That's not it's not for me to do, but it could have been something along those lines as well. And as I say, Ollie Watkins is going to need to continue to score to achieve his lofty ambitions of being in the England team. And there is a space there for a second striker, I think, provided that he continues to catch the eye of Southgate. Now, with regards to, I suppose, Villa, we're going to need to replace a certain somebody. And we're not going to make a big deal out of it.
Of course,
somebody is going to have to step out of themselves. They're going to have to step out of their comfort zone, grab the bull by the horns, and take themselves to another level. And who do you think is going to be that player? Do you think it's going to be somebody who was here last year that's going to really elevate themselves, or do you think it's going to be one of the new signings?
I think it'll have to be one of the new signings. And based on their verbiage, it kind of sounds like they expect it to be like a combination of the three, obviously. I know we haven't seen a single second of him, even in preseason, but truly Leon Bailey is the wild card of the group. I mean, It can go in any two directions. And I was talking to someone who works in football about this. It certainly seemed like, and let me be clear, I'm very thrilled with the business that they've done this year, but it seemed to be their preference to bring in players that have PL experience, all of them. And when that doesn't work out, because either, the situation the leagues find themselves in, the weird schedule this offseason, because of the Euros, or just because, it's so difficult to buy those players, not everyone has PL experience. So then it becomes a little bit of a risk, right? Because it is switching, even though he was extremely productive at a very young age at a Bundesliga side, there is risk involved, because like Everton has made these moves, Leicester has made these moves. And, you can't just be one of the top 4 clubs that just is able to funnel and pick off players from the teams below you on the table. So, in order to hit those, an 80%, 70% hit rate is fantastic. But what he brings to the table is just something that I thought maybe Bertrand Traore could bring to the table. And he did at points. And I'm a big fan of BT because it's like those magic moments. It's just something that is, you can't anticipate them. They're not consistent, but boy, they can change a match. But what Bailey brings to the table, it's kind of, not to bring it to what I do, Neil, but it's like wide receivers versus corners.
Yes.
And that it's, if he's even with you when the pass is thrown, he's leaving and he's gone. And I've been staying up all night at times watching some Leon Bailey highlights like dating back to 2017. And there are so many times when he just has a full head of steam running off the left wing, and that right back, and sure, maybe it's debatable how talented a certain right backs are that he was facing, but there are times when he's about 5-10 yards, and then on the final touch of the pass and the first touch gathering it towards goal, he's another 5 or 10 yards ahead. Like he makes up 15 or 20 yards of ground. And that's just something that I don't know if this team has ever had. And then coupled that with the passing that we saw from Emmy in the opening preseason game to also Ollie, and then Danny Ings dropping to pull, and like the tug and pull of center backs as well. Dangerous combination.
You've sold it to me. You absolutely have sold it to me there, and you are right. I think a lot of what's going to happen is going to be a lot of what happens with this team is going to be where we actually play Emi Buendia. And we may not see it against Watford because he may be out, he may be injured with the knock that he's picked up. Although I'm hopeful that he will play. I think the news is pretty positive on him. But whether they play him in a number 8 role, more of a central midfielder role, we would have the smallest central midfield in the history, I would say, of the sport, if that is the case. But as we said previously, nothing wrong with us small guys. We can play ball.
Not
too,
everyone can be 6'2". Not everyone can be 6'2".
Exactly. But yeah, and I think that synopsis is kind of correct. That we do have horses for courses now. We do have people who can do different things and stretch the play in different areas and in different ways. And I think we also have the added aspect of youth coming on board this season as well. I know that the Carney is probably the one that everybody is talking about, or everybody wants. But is there anybody that you think you could see could be a surprise package maybe in the first game for the season that maybe gets a start or an over?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it at the start that it could be Ashley Young or maybe El Ghazi, depending on injuries and who's fit to play. But Philogene Badace, I don't know if there's a foot that he put wrong that wouldn't put him in line to start in that first match either. I mean, it's so interesting to me because obviously I went and watched, those youth games and everything towards the end of last season, but you really can't get a feel for exactly how these younger players match up until you see them on either in these friendlies or so on, like with people who are actually going to play in the championship or a league below, just people that are older, right? It's kind of the same thing like
big boy football.
Yeah, when college players go and play in the NFL and preseason games, like there's just a difference. There's a difference. Everyone's the same size, and the competition is there, and the game slows down for him. And it's the same way with Leon Bailey, and it's the same way with all these other players, where you see at times, depending on the expectations of them high or low, when the ball comes to them, and we've seen it at Villa over the years, there's some panic there. It's as soon as they touch their feet, they want to get rid of it. And I feel like with what I've seen with Leon during his time in the Bundesliga and with JPB, that they are understanding of when is appropriate to hold on to the ball for that extra moment or when to immediately one-touch pass it or get away and then continue their run as well. I mean, the assist that he had recently, setting up some other goals in terms of the flow of the play, it seems like while he's still very young, he kind of has that natural innate feel and movement that, because wings are just inconsistent by nature. And I think that it would be surprising to me if he doesn't have a role to play this year.
And I think that he's going to have a role. I do think he's going to have a role to play. I think we could see maybe 500, 600 minutes for him this season, probably maybe even more depending on how he starts. But I think what's going to be also more pivotal as well is that he has the mentor of all mentors in Ashley Young. You know, you don't hear a bad word said about him by a lot of his coaches. The fact that he's retrained in several different positions over his career, started off as a winger, played as a striker at times for Villa, played in the hole for Villa, and ended up at left and right back. Played actually centre half for Manchester United for something like 43 minutes in a game after somebody got sent off. So, you know, consummate professional and somebody that Jayden can absolutely learn from. When we look at the league as a whole, Josh, who do you think is going to finish in the top? Actually, no, I'm not going to ask you who's going to finish in the top four because it's almost too painful to answer.
I agree.
Who do you think is going to be the surprise package outside of Aston Villa, obviously, in the Premier League this season? Or will there be a surprise package?
I think there definitely will be, even though because of the uncertainty kind of in the league this summer, we've talked about this. The top four may have kind of cemented their places there unless some things change. And it feels like something always changes, right? I mean, look at West Ham last year. That was a fantastic surprise. Leicester has, again, using this word, cemented themselves as a team that somehow, I mean, their recruitment is so good and continuing to develop that talent. Maybe this is the wrong thing to say, but I have just loved watching Leeds last season, and specifically, and this might be unfair because they went for around the same mark, and there has to be mutual interest on both sides. But in my head, I keep comparing BT with Rafinha on that right wing, and they both offer, you know, very admirable skill sets at times, but the speed, the pace, the tenacity, the willingness to go for it. Yes, it might be a roller coaster of a time for Leeds, and they certainly leave their back line exposed at times. But we know what it's like to stay up that second season after, and they didn't even have to scrap to stay up that first year. So just, again, getting that development, that comfort in their second year in the PL after being away from it for so long. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Leeds finish as a top 8 side this season.
Hopefully we finish as a top 7. So
yes, that was the next point there.
And that's going to bring me on to my next question and the $1 million question. Josh, Villa, end of the season, Premier League table, where do you think they're going to finish?
Again, wild cards of Leon Bailey. I would even throw out Morgan Sanson as a major wild card too, because that seemed to be a purchase 6 months in advance, and surely hope that he is healthy. Let's go for 7. That's not quite where they want to be. They also get a deep run in one of the cups, but I think 7 makes the most sense. And then you continue to push on. Part of me wonders if they are done adding. Maybe one crucial piece is left that can take them over the top. But I'm just, it's uncertainty. Some people call it a rebuild, a refresh. I cannot undersell, to me, the importance of what this ownership has done for Villa, because at least over here in the US, like, bad teams stay bad because of bad ownership, because it truly is a trickle down. It is. Like, the Cleveland Browns are an example.
That's why I was laughing.
Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets. There are all these examples, and how it's just been on this trajectory and ascension after these owners came up, and now with the flexibility of the sale, will just give them even, again, more flexibility moving forward. And just the ambition, that word gets thrown around, the ambition that they've shown, despite not capitalizing on any sales for the last 3 years, it truly makes this club potentially special. Truly.
Yeah. And you've seen what they've done with the Bucks, in the NBA circles, especially over in the US. And Wes Edens is pretty bullish that he wants to achieve greatness across 2 sports. So I would be absolutely delighted if he could emulate that this season, and it would be some trophy cabinet for him if Villa were to pick off an FA Cup, or hell, if they were to win the league and make it a fairy tale story altogether.
I know this is your show, but before we go, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Because we've talked glowingly, positively, which you all do a great job about. Let me throw my negative American energy at you. Okay. What could be the one flaw for this team? And to me, my little concern is, being able to keep that back 5 and really add depth to it is amazing at this time, right? With where the PL is. But if you run 2 strikers out there, if you're changing formations up front and don't have that enforcer of a defensive midfielder out there, I'm a little nervous that we're relying so much on that tremendous back 4. And I would say that might be, while it's great, they might just have too much pressure on them at times.
That's exactly my concern, Josh. That's what my concern is, getting in more midfielders. I'm okay to trust Carney Chukwuemeka in more advanced role if the game dictates it. I'm okay to trust Jacob Ramsey in certain games. I think he can play the 6th role a small bit more. I actually finished the video today on Czech Decore, which I was.
Great call.
I have been. I think it must be about 4 or 5 months ago. I said that I just really like the look of this guy. I'd love him at Aston Villa. When I literally lost all my emotions when I saw he was linked with Villa. I went, oh my God, this is just a guy that I just found, started watching, went, wow, this guy is really, really good. And he stacks up really well. And I think if we could bring him in, and hell, if we were to go and bring in a James Ward-Prowse as well, I would be saying 7th, bring it on for sure. Bring on 6th. Why can't we do a West Ham from last season, except go one step further? So I think I agree with you with the concerns. I think the concern is probably a bit lightweight in the middle of midfield. As I mentioned, a small midfield isn't exactly ideal. It's not a negative, but it's not exactly ideal for the way this team plays. I don't want us to be as passive and to invite teams onto the edge of our box like we did last season. It was actually really interesting when I was going down through statistics for Nakamba and for Douglas Luiz, why I love them and I want them to stay with Aston Villa. There was just a couple of things that I kind of drew my attention and went, oh, actually, this makes way. The reason that they scored so lowly in certain areas was because of the way we played, and we wanted to block people at the edge of our box. And I hope we're not as open in midfield as we were last season. And I think there probably is still a little transfer story yet to be written for Aston Villa in the middle of midfield this season for sure. But Josh, thank you so much for popping on. I really love talking to you, and as I say, it's always a pleasure to get your insight. And I must say that you guys have been absolutely knocking it out of the park. I have a fantasy draft at this weekend in the NFL. Yeah, so I have been swatting up. I am just nearly there, nearly decided. I think I'm picking number 2. Someone told me, but I don't know how they've got the draft orders out already. So I'm looking forward to it. But you guys, if I win, I'm going to thank you guys. If I lose, I'll just blame myself. That's what I do. That's the way I'm going to go.
Any of your listeners, if you even just watch the NFL casually, if you play fantasy football and are a degenerate like Neil, then go and check out the Underdog Football Show. It's my co-host.
Yes,
I can relate to you. Talk to him, 4 times a week at 12:30 Eastern. Hayden Winks, but we're having a great time. It's a great time of year for us. And sorry to talk your head off over here.
Not at all. Absolutely not at all.
You're welcome.
You did not at all. And as I say, I can attest to it as well. And I know a couple of people there do play fantasy football, so do give it a listen. It's a mine of information. I absolutely love it. The guys are great crack too as well when they're chatting to each other. So Josh, thank you so much. I really want to have you on again throughout the course of the season because I do love talking to you. Here's to a great season, and
here's to 9 points.
Here's to 9 points exactly in the first 3 games, and then we'll take it from there. Then, thanks so much for popping on, Josh. Really appreciate it.
You too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Pete, the Canadian Villa fan from the Holy Trinity Show podcast, and I'm going to just bring in Pete there now. Pete, how are you doing? Welcome all the way from Canada.
I hope you have a translator. I can't understand a thing you're saying, Neil.
This is closed caption. Closed captions coming up here.
I'm very, very thrilled to be on the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast.
And I'm very thrilled to have you on it as well, because as we've been saying offline, and you probably didn't think I was serious, I'm going to just throw out random bids for your Subbuteo stadium behind you, because I think it is the coolest thing. I was never allowed to have a Subbuteo table. Well, it wasn't that I wasn't allowed to have one. It was that my parents said, you're just going to lose all the men like within 40 seconds of getting it, so I'm not going to bother getting you one. And ever since, I've always looked kind of enviously at people who have a fantastic Subbuteo setup, and that's pretty cool, and it's all decked out in the Villa colours and so on. But tell me, Pete, how does a Villa fan like yourself, how do you sprout out of the ether in British Columbia? Like, how does that even happen?
Well, first things first, my wife just accepted your first bid, so there's that.
Okay, right.
And if you think this is good, you got to find a guy named Alan Crampton on Facebook, and I can't remember what his Instagram handle is. His stadium makes my Villa Park look like crap. Honestly, it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So a shout out to Alan. Do you know, Neil, it's probably a story that other people have told the same way. It's just something about the name, the colors, and the stadium all together, that when you're 10 years old and they're being featured often on big league soccer here in Canada, something just speaks to you. And, you know, there's this phrase that says, well, you don't choose your club, it chooses you. And that's very much how it was for me. And, you know, so whenever I see this badge and these colors together, it just makes me happy. It makes me feel like a 10-year-old again. And then, you know, throughout my teens, I really got into it, even though we didn't have a whole lot of exposure. And just imagine now, as every year goes by here in Canada, I could watch every single Aston Villa game, all the preseason games. Some people in Europe can't do that. So yeah, it's a deep, deep devotion, let me tell you, Neil.
I can imagine so, because even like the time difference, and I know, because I watch a lot of NFL games, there's a lot of times whereby you know, wake up the next morning and the better half says to me, where were you last night? And I was going, I was watching NFL until 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, you know. And for you guys, it's a bit easier, I suppose, getting up earlier in the morning more so than having to go to bed late at night. But as you say, it is a devotion, and you know, I have to commend somebody like yourself to have that devotion so far away. And you mentioned that you can watch all the games more or less live, you know, and it's TSN, isn't that what that's
used to, but now we're DAZN, so you have to subscribe.
Oh yes.
Yes, but you know, you get to watch all the games, so you know, I'm not going to complain. I don't like the lunchtime kickoffs because that's 4 a.m. But for the most part, I watch every game live, sometimes twice.
Sometimes twice, exactly. Well, here in Ireland, sometimes you'll find somebody who has a less than legal stream, and I don't condone those in any way, shape, or form. Not on this podcast, no sorry. But we do try and get, because we fall under the same banner as the UK, having the 3 o'clock games. You know, unless they're on terrestrial TV, you do have to try and find another provider somewhere. And thankfully, we can get access to an awful lot of channels here in Ireland, and get to see the game. So I will be plonked on my couch at 3 p.m. on Saturday watching the Watford game, and I think that's a good place to start, Pete, because look, the season starts this weekend, and you know, I suppose, without putting words in your mouth, what's your initial thoughts on Aston Villa's readiness for this Premier League season starting on Saturday?
Well, I just heard Dean Smith say that he is hopeful about Ollie Watkins' bruised knee. So that's not a structural thing, which is good. And hopefully he'll be ready in time. But then Emi Buendia is a doubt and Leon Bailey's not in. So I think that could be a big opportunity for Jaden Philidine-Bidace and most likely Ashley Young. Ashley Young has flown under a lot of people's radars. When he was signed, it was like, well, that's a nice nostalgic story for a 36-year-old. But in fact, in training, it's very clear he's pushing for starting minutes. And in his limited time in the final tune-up on Sunday, I thought he was very effective, scored a nice goal. And the leadership that he's going to bring is incredibly important to guys like Chukwuemeka and Philidine-Bidace, and that's one of the reasons why they brought him in. But he's still a player. He still has a bit of pace around him. And wouldn't that be a great story that he starts against his old team at Watford? Because beyond that, I mean, it's Anwar El Ghazi, who's now rumored to be on the way out by the looks of things. And I just think that makes an awful lot of sense. And pretty much the rest of the team kind of chooses itself. But it may be a couple of weeks before, everything has come together. And I think luckily for Aston Villa, the schedule makers were pretty kind in those first 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that's something that kind of crops up quite a lot, is the first 3 weeks and the first 3 games. And yes, it can make or very much so break Aston Villa's season. Some people say we'll get 7 points, some people say we get 9. Look, with Aston Villa, yourself, it is a possibility we get 2 points from those first 3 games as well. But I think that the reaction will be commensurate to kind of what we've lost, what we've seen come in through the door, and the fact that that Dean Smith will have to, I suppose, will have to show some managerial strength. I think throughout the course of definitely the first 3 games, and then whatever the season holds afterwards. But what way do you think those first 3 games are going to go? Are you in the 9-point brigade, or are you in the 2-point brigade?
Well, I think if we're being realistic, because we know how difficult the Premier League is, but I look at the Brentford one as being very interesting because of the past connections and just how they seem to have somehow bamboozled Aston Villa all these years when Dean Smith was in charge of the Bees. I just know, having seen Villa come up and given all the business they did do when they were promoted and how hard it was, it's not going to be easy for Watford, even though they had a very good season and they have some good players. And I would love to see Troy Deeney miserable after that game. That's always fun, but they have some good players. I mean, Ismaila Star is just one, and they'll be really pumped up playing at Vicarage Road in front of a Premier League crowd again for the first time in a while. So it's not going to be easy. But I looked at Villa's, away form last year, and I think they punched above their weight away from home. Sometimes not against the big 6 clubs. And then, with Newcastle, they haven't done a whole lot of really thrilling business from my perspective. And I thought Aston Villa desperately unlucky to not take all 6 points against them with the late goal at St. James's Park. So I don't like making point predictions, but I do want to see progression, and that's the biggest thing. And then what we want to see by September is cohesion and a chemistry and sort of a formation and system that is starting to be will have some continuity, and that's what they really need. And it's funny because a lot of people pointed this out about Big Ron back in the day, and I can't remember what year it was, but he had a huge summer transfer window and brought in a lot of names, and they got off to a terrible start, and everybody was fuming. And then I think they ended up finishing 4th that year. So we judge at the end of the year where they finish. Obviously getting off to a great start would be wonderful though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I think of those first 3 games, it's going to be an interesting one, because last season Aston Villa didn't beat the teams they were expected to beat, and they went away and they obviously beat bigger teams. So let's see if we learned anything. Let's see if we can beat the teams we're supposed to beat, and then have that gravy on top of beating the teams that we're not supposed to beat, because all we seemed to do was eat gravy last year, but we left everything else behind. It was a strange part of the season at times last season. So let's take let's bridge ourselves, I suppose, really from Aston Villa for a moment, and let's talk about the league in general. Give me a prediction, or who do you think are going to finish in the top 4, Pete? Because it's a bit more open this season, I think, than most other seasons.
Hard to say, Neil, because I really don't spend a whole lot of time closely dissecting any teams until Aston Villa is facing them, and that's just because I just don't have time, and I don't see. I mean, can we really see somebody other than City, United, Chelsea, and Liverpool finishing in those top 4 places? Never mind what order they're in, but they're still going to be the elite. And what's interesting to me is in the next group down of teams that Aston Villa has to hurdle if they want to get into legitimate European contention, the business that I've seen done isn't necessarily overwhelming, whereas a lot of other people are looking over and seeing what's happened here and said, geez, they've done a lot of good business and the window's still open. So yeah, it's going to be one of those 4 teams. Let's be obvious. And Manchester City, like, are they going to get worse with the one addition and potentially a second if Harry Kane does finally force or gets transferred away? And Liverpool will certainly have their backs up because of how things unfolded last year, and it's a big year for Jurgen Klopp. And Chelsea is just another big spender who will probably get a big player in the. Well, they already are lining up Romelu Lukaku. So it's going to be those 4 teams. After that, though, does Leicester and West Ham still have it? Where does Everton, after sort of a little bit of an off season of turmoil with a managerial change, same thing for Spurs, and there's a little bit of turmoil going on there right now. And then you just never know with the Arsenals, etc. West Ham is another one. Can they have a season like they did last year? So it's the neighborhood that Aston Villa wants to live in that I'm most closely watching, because that's where ultimately they want to be.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's actually a very good way of thinking about it. I personally don't think West Ham can have the season that they did last season. They haven't really strengthened, if at all. I can't even remember if they've brought anybody in. And I think with Everton, I think Everton are in a holding pattern under Benitez at the moment. Their transfer business so far has been underwhelming, and I think that by dint of that, even though we've lost Jack Grealish, I think that we can leapfrog potentially those 2 teams going into this season. But look, the game is played on grass and not on paper, and it's just the way some games go. We might be unfortunate, they might be more fortunate. Like West Ham, I don't think are going to have the injury. They're not going to they're not going to be as lucky with injuries as they were last season, and if they are, well then that's the way the cookie crumbles. But with regards, I suppose, to teams underperforming this season, is there anybody, I suppose, that really kind of sticks out to you? And I know you said that you haven't really got down to dissecting teams yet. Is there anybody that, bar the top, the 3 that have came through, is there anybody that sticks out to you as probably being a bit in trouble this season?
Well, I'll tell you what, if the rumors are true and it happens that Vestergaard goes to Leicester and James Ward-Prowse comes to Villa, as good as Southampton have been at regenerating their squads and finding diamonds, developing, and then selling them on, because they've been very good at that. They've been one of the best teams in the league at that, outside of Leicester. That's a lot to ask this close to the closing of the window, which is just a little over 2.5 weeks away. So there's one. The one I'm really fascinated by, because one of my best mates is a big fan of theirs, is Crystal Palace, because I saw Patrick Vieira here in North America with New York City FC, and then he kind of went over to Europe and was a little bit on the underwhelming side. There was a long list of candidates at Selhurst Park, and finally they did arrive on Vieira, and they've made a couple of decent signings. Elise is a guy that a lot of Aston Villa fans said, "Oh, could we have him playing with Eze?" And they've had a huge clear out of older players on expiring contracts, so a lot of players had to be regenerated there. So for me, it's a fascinating one, because they can either be a surprise or a disaster, and I just don't know, and that makes it kind of fun. But you made a point earlier about not getting the business done at either end of the table. It's amazing how last year 5 teams held Aston Villa to 2 points out of 30. That's a shocking haul, and one of them was West Ham. So in the middle of the table, they had a fantastic run of forms. They have to beat the teams that they want to leapfrog to get into Europe, and they do have to get something from the teams at the bottom. I mean, the loss at Sheffield United hurt. Their inability to get points against Burnley hurt. That's what they have to avoid this year. They have to pick up something against the newcomers and also the teams that will be in relegation trouble. And another one like that is Brighton, who always seems to play decent football, but they're always seemingly in a relegation scrap. Well, they held Aston Villa to 1 point out of 6 last year.
Yeah, and like, we do have bogey teams. We absolutely have bogey teams, and I think that's part of the maturation process for Aston Villa at the moment, is to just become dominant against those teams, that the perceived teams that we should beat. And until we do that, we will always be floundering around mid-table. But that is the catalyst, and that is the key. Let's shift back towards Aston Villa there. And by the way, that was a loaded last question I asked you, because I needed to figure out, had you got my office bugged? And you do, because I think Southampton are going to struggle as well. So we'll talk about that off camera. I'd like to get your thoughts on a couple of things Aston Villa wise, and I don't think this would have been a question, I suppose, before this day last week when Danny Ings came in the door. But who do you think is going to be Villa's top scorer?
Well, I'm preparing my big season preview show, which should be dropping either later tonight in Europe or early tomorrow morning. And one of the questions that I had, same as you, last week was, well, how many goals will Ollie Watkins score? And the point that I would make is that he had 14 last year. He hit the woodwork 7 times, and he was ruled out by VAR laser lines at least 2 times that I can remember, but it might have actually been 3. So when you put that all together in his first year in the Premiership, and now with players that can find him like a Buendia or a Bailey, or at least distract players and open spaces, same as Danny Ings, who's very good at that. I mean, this is one of the more clever and prolific goal scorers in the entire league. And it makes you wonder, okay, well, could he hit 20? I think that's very realistic. Then Danny Ings comes in the door. And you wonder, well, does that mean, is that going to take goals away from Ollie Watkins and potentially provide him with more assists, or will that somehow actually increase his goal output? But the question we should be asking is, how many goals can those 2 players, because that's part of their jobs, how many can they both combine for? And, for me, maybe it's lofty, but a 30-goal haul between the 2 of them, if it was 15 and 15 or 20 and 10, would be an amazing output, frankly, because there's going to be goal from the flanks, there's going to be goals from substitutions, midfielders, and hopefully with Austin McPhee, there'll be more goals from defenders on set piece routines, because that's why they brought him in. So I could see Ollie Watkins going anywhere from 20 or above. But with Danny Ings combined, I think we have to start looking at it as a partnership, because already there were signs that this is going to work, not just on the attack side, but that Ollie Watkins plays 9 because he can press so well. He initiates the press and guides where everybody else goes behind him. And that's where I see Danny Ings coming in and supporting the press and working hard. So basically, he's taken Ross Barkley's role this year in many respects, but he'll be much better at it than Ross Barkley. And that's what's exciting. So I look at it as a combo. How do the 2 of them finish this year together?
And that's absolutely, I've said that as well in any previews I've done so far, is that I actually think we'll have 3 players get into double figures this season, which is absolutely unheard of for Aston Villa. And yes, I have drank the Kool-Aid and I am being super positive about the whole situation. But, we nearly had 3 people get into, we actually nearly had 4 people get into double figures last season. So I can't see why not this season, especially considering we now have 2 I'm going to call them moderately prolific strikers, Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins, because I don't think Watkins is there with the in the prolific striker bucket just yet, but another season of 14-15 goals and he's definitely there for me. And I think the goals will come from the wings, just like you as well. So that's quite positive. I like that. Who do you think Villa's player of the year is going to be?
Well, if it is Leon Bailey, then hooray, because he's just turned 24, and for the price that they got him, I still think he's below market value for what they paid, given the statistical story behind this guy. And a lot of people say, well, he's not a direct replacement for Jack Grealish, and it's not fair to compare Leon Bailey of today against Jack Grealish of today. However, they do play in similar positions, although Bailey likes being on the right-hand side, but it's a similar kind of position. You can compare Bailey with Jack Grealish of 3 to 4 years ago when he was 23, 24. And in that sense, back then Grealish scored 6 and assisted on 8 in the promotion season out of 34 games. And this year, Bailey scored 9 and assisted on 9 out of 30 games in the Bundesliga. Well, I think we could fairly say that the Bundesliga is a better league than the Championship, and he played fewer games to get that output. And what I like about Bailey, and what he said in his interview, is how much pride he takes in setting up his teammates. And there's been times in the past where I screamed at my TV because Jack Grealish would go on a 65 to 70-yard run, beat 4 guys, get to the end, see the headlines and the highlight reels, and go for goal rather than squaring it for Ollie Watkins, who's in a better position and can tap it in. And this is where I think Bailey will be very, very effective, because you don't know what he's going to do. Plus the fact that at 24, Bailey is faster today than Grealish was 3 to 4 years ago. Nobody can argue that. Like, his pace is going to worry defenders. So if it is Leon Bailey, in addition to everybody else that we have and have brought in and may still yet bring in, that would be a really, really good thing. But you also have to think that Emi Martinez is going to feel 10 feet tall coming into this season because of what happened in the Copa America, where I call him the penalty whisperer. He trash talked Argentina into a Confederate title. And I just can't help but feel that he's going to feel even stronger this year. And so are the other internationals. Tyrone Mings, for example, I think will feel really confident this year after his experiences in the summer.
Yeah, and they're good points, absolutely. And if Leon Bailey comes out of the blocks, probably won't be there on Saturday. In fact, I would actually wager my house on it that he won't be there on Saturday. But it's a long season, and it's never won or lost on the second week or the third week, as it would be in August. So actually, yeah, I think Leon Bailey could be a good shout. Here comes the money shot, Pete. Where are Villa going to finish?
Well, given everything that we talked about who they have to beat this year, they have to beat the teams that they are battling for those positions. And the funny thing is, they actually, at the end of the year, they beat Chelsea and Spurs. They beat Arsenal twice. So they have to keep doing that, but they can't get blanked for points by West Ham. They could have probably taken 6 against Everton, and they didn't. Yeah. But that's what they need to do in addition to doing what we expect them to do. It would be nice if they could somehow get points against the 2 Manchester teams, because that's just been a real problem over the last few years. I don't think there's any reason, given the players that they've brought in, why they couldn't finish in at least a Europa League place. And yes, we have to prepare ourselves for what might be a bit of a slow start as this team figures one another out. But again, the measure is by the end of the year. And I don't think we're going to have a COVID outbreak after New Year's that's going to sideline the entire team for 2 weeks and then force them into this compressed schedule. And all we have to do, and where's some wood here, I'm touching wood, that there are no major injury problems, because that can derail all your hopes. But they're building a squad for depth, and maybe there'll be surprise players that come in, like Philodine Bidace, for example, or Chukwuemeka, that can do some spot duty, and maybe, who knows, they progress. Sometimes kids rise or even exceed the levels that were expected initially. So I'm just super excited, because I absolutely think they have a chance. The business, you cannot say has been poor. It's been fantastic business. And as I've mentioned numerous times, there may still be more to come.
Pete, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for popping on today. Please, the floor is yours. Plug your show. It's a fantastic show. It's I really like watching it. The production value, you will not fault it. It's fantastic. But Pete, go for it. Where can everybody find your work?
Well, first of all, the production comes down a lot to my producer, Rob Young, who's very good at lighting and cameras and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a YouTube show, The Holy Trinity Show. And essentially, it's just me waxing on about the mighty and beloved Aston Villa. And every week, I'll recap games and give you the Holy Trinity, the 3 things that defined the match. And, it's hopefully moments that people don't see. We always tend to say, well, that goal happened because of that. But if you wind the play back 30 seconds or to a minute, you'll find the inception of goals. And that's what I like to look at, because that's more relevant to me. So that's what I'll be doing week in and week out, usually on Sundays or Mondays after a match day. You've had time to digest. And then sometimes I throw some other fun stuff in there. So I'd love for you to check it out and follow me and subscribe and all that good stuff. And Neil, thank you for giving me the platform to visit and to get to know you a little bit. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. You're welcome anytime. And I'll be on to you afterwards to organize a shipment of the Subutia table. Once we agree deal.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Pete. I hope you have a fantastic opening day of the weekend, and let's hope that Villa kick it off and get off to a good start.
Up the mighty Villa, mate.
Next, I'm joined by the wonderful Ty Bracey, the creator, the man who birthed # Villa Spaces from his loins, along with Villa Analytics and with Josh from A View from the Stands. And Ty Bracey is going to pop on. I'm just going to bring him in here, and we'll pop him on and see what his view of the new season is going to be. Hey, Ty, how's things?
Hey, buddy. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great. I am so chuffed for the season coming up, and it's mad because I never thought I'd be like this, especially after we've gotten rid of our iconic talisman, the man who, basically you mentioned Aston Villa Football Club, the first person they say is Jack Grealish, but they won't say that now, and we're into a new era, and I'm just delighted to chat to you and see what your views on the new season are. And obviously, it kicks off this Saturday, Ty. Are you going to venture down? Did you get an away ticket for the game?
I'm on dad duties this weekend, which I can't get out of. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah, my son, he's been away with his mum for a while, for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to spend some much needed quality time with him this weekend. Away games, I try and get to at least 3 or 4, 5 a year. But yeah, dad duties sometimes I have to prioritise. So I'm looking forward to a
Absolutely.
weekend with him. But I'll be watching the game, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can teach him, you can shove your 100 million. Teach him that.
We don't want to rattle any other fan bases, mate.
Send him back home with the full rendition.
That was fun, man. I Spaces I'd seen a few people using. Villa Analytics, who's Steve. I won't call him Villa Analytics. His name's Steve.
Yeah.
He has a personal account as well as that one. I'd seen him go live a couple of times. And then, like, I just said to him, one day, should we just go live and talk about everything that's going on? I was like, everything's a bit mad on Twitter. And, I like to think I'm quite a positive person on social media. And I just wanted to spread a bit of that because things were getting toxic very fast. So I, at that point, didn't know Jack was leaving. So I still had faith. And I just wanted to spread that faith. And, it was quite late in the night. And people genuinely do love football that much where they go to bed and they take those things to bed with them. And, I try and go to bed with a mind as clear as possible. So it ended up becoming, we're titled to like bedtime stories. What type of football, if we call it a podcast, a live recording, whatever, bedtime stories to do with football. What's that about? It's just mad how it all come about.
Yeah, it was. And you know what? It was great because, look, it was just something that was so kind of easy to listen to and something that was kind of, as you said, it was kind of needed. And it could have gone on for 2 hours, could have gone for 3 hours, could have gone for 4 hours. I think actually one of them did go on well past 90 minutes at one stage.
Did he really?
Yeah, I think one of them did. And it was just because they're so late at night. And it was actually nice to try in the headphones and just sit back and, for me, I love listening to podcasts because I think I'm positive as well 90% of the time. And when someone else is upping your mood and you don't have to contribute to it, that's I actually really appreciate it. So fair play to yourself. And I know Steve from popping on the podcast here a couple of times as well. He's a good guy, and it was absolutely fantastic to have it. It was fantastic to see it. But
I met him at the training session for the first time. He was there with his dad, so I planned, with everything that gone on. I was like, look, man, we need to meet. Like, we definitely need to meet. So he came over to my seat and had a chat for a bit while the training session was going on. So that was pretty cool.
What was that like, Ty? What was the feeling around that? And I suppose with a view looking in towards the new season, was there a whole sense of optimism in Villa Park on Saturday?
Yeah, there was a fair bit of noise, but it was fairly relaxed. There was a few training drills and then a little practice game. But when the practice game was going on, I think I only seen like the first 10 minutes, and then I was just catching up with people.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, it was great just to be there with people. It was a tad strange, but it didn't feel like a game, But, people were cheering when there was a goal and stuff like that, just to up the mood a little bit. But yeah, it was just, I'll be honest, mate, I spent £16 on food. I had a Balti pie, a sausage roll, chips and curry sauce, and 2 bottles of Diet Coke.
There you go. Premier League is back, Ty. Premier League is back.
Just that, Balti pie, man. It's just exactly what I needed.
Exactly. The amount of people that I've seen over the last week or maybe 2 weeks on Twitter saying we're getting close to getting a pie that was cooked 18 hours ago and it's as dry as a bone. And I can't wait to get it into down my gullet.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, mate. It was bliss.
So as we go into the game against Watford on Saturday, I think it's probably fair to say, even though with the optimism that's there around Aston Villa at the moment, it would be fair to say that there's a few questions, I suppose, around a couple of aspects. Obviously, we've only got some of our players back in the last week. One of our signings won't be around it on Saturday. On Saturday, but apart from that, I suppose, Ty, where do you think Aston Villa have seen probably the biggest uptick over the course of the summer across their squad?
I think depth is a conversation that we vaguely touch upon every year. You don't see a lot of people talking about depth. People very much criticise Dean Smith for how late he leaves his substitutions. And I don't think that's a Dean Smith thing. I think that's what do you want me to do? I've got nothing here. And we're slowly coming out of that, So it's we're entering a phase that I'm very optimistic about, but it's a phase that in recent years we life without Jack now feels a tad strange. I'm over it, but it feels a tad strange. You know, with everything that you think about in our recent history, and you know, watching him get better and you know become more valuable to the team. I think we've shown in the transfer window that we mean business, you know, regardless of whether we had him or not. I think we still sign those players regardless. I genuinely, I know Purslow had said in his interview that, you know, he looked for the three things that Jack brought to the table most, but I think those signings would have happened anyway. I genuinely do.
I think probably 2 out of the 3 would have happened anyway.
Yeah,
sure. I think Buendia was definitely coming in, come hell or high water, and I think we're going to get another striker. And maybe Leon Bailey was just too good to turn down, kind of like a Morgan Sanson situation. And there's a guy actually that the more I think about it, or the more I see it on Twitter, a lot of people are writing him off, but we haven't seen anything from him yet. And I think that's exciting more so than, oh my God, we wasted 14 million on a guy from Marseille and they just burnt down their training ground the night before. Remember that? Remember the fans just went about burning down their training ground? Wasn't that mad? Absolute yes. It might have got there. It might have got there at some stage, but it didn't quite get there. But and I think you're right with the depth. I think the depth is definitely cause for optimism and massive optimism because yes, we do have the country's best crop of young kids. But you know, I know that Alan Hansen was proven wrong in 1995 when he said you'll win nothing with kids. I just don't think the game is like it was in 1995. And I don't think that, while I think Jadon Philogene-Bides could get 500 minutes in the Premier League this season, and I think Carney could get up in 500, you don't want to be in a situation where you're relying on them as your plan B, you know, in certain, because it's not fair on those kids either. It's not fair on them to come into a pressure plate, having to try and replace a guy like Jack Grealish, who's just gone for 100 million, and to throw it all on somebody like Jadon Philogene-Bides if Anwar Ghazi isn't firing. You know, I think that would be absolute madness. So with the depth that we have in there, and a lot of people think, oh yeah, we've got a replacement, so we've got 2 people who can play on the right. You kind of really need 3. You kind of really need 3 to deal with form, injury, and just to have options. And there'll be days where some of these guys won't get on the bench, and that will be absolutely fine. And it won't be the end of the world. Whereas last year it was the end of the world if, let's say, if somebody was dropped off the bench, if there wasn't somebody. And Anwar Ghazi didn't even start on the bench at the start of the season last year. He only came in on the bench in maybe November, and he ended up scoring 10 goals. So, you know, having depth like that is quite pivotal. And I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right in that. Knowing what we know now, and I suppose looking at the way that the Premier League is shaping up at the moment, and I think it's worth saying that not a lot of teams have done an awful lot of business. You know, Southampton have signed 2 strikers in 2 days or whatever, which are badly needed. Signed Adam Armstrong, who I think is a tad bit too small for the Premier League, but prove me wrong. As I say, great player, great feet and everything, but maybe just a small bit too small for the Premier League. And they got Aaron Barca but the Premier League itself has been pretty quiet, the transfer market so far.
Hasn't it?
Where do you see Aston Villa finishing this year, I suppose, is $1 million question.
I put a tweet out yesterday about this, and the general reply, I mean, there was some that were very far-fetched, that were saying top 6 or it's failure. And I think anything, we don't know what a life, you know, under Dean Smith without Jack Grealish looks like, apart from when he's been injured and it's been bad. So I understand people who think we're going to finish 15th, but I don't agree with it. But I see why they think like that, because some people are just looking at, you know, history and thinking it's going to repeat itself. I think we're going to finish 7th to 10th. That's my, I reckon, between 7th and 10th, 100%.
I think that's the sweet spot. I think I can't remember what I did. I did a piece with Claret and Blue podcast for preview. I think I might have gone wild. I don't know. I don't know, was I sniffing firelighters or something beforehand? But I think I might have said 5th place or something mad. I think I might have said something mad. I can't remember. But I mightn't have, though. I might be doing myself a disservice. But I think the sweet spot is between 7th and 10th, because when you look at the teams that are at the top of the league and you look at teams like, as I said, Chelsea are just going to buy Lukaku for 100 and whatever. Like they're going to break Jack's.
Broke even on him though, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they have something mad. It's like as if he went on loan to United and to Inter for that money. But it's craziness. But he'll be formidable. He'll be formidable when he comes back and has all the pace around him. You know, Spurs are probably the one that could drop like a stone. They could drop out of the top 6 and give someone an opportunity. I don't think West Ham are going to be as fruitful as they were last year. I think they caught lightning in a bottle for a lot of the season last year, and they won't have Jesse Lingard, it looks like, unless they make a play for him at the end of the season. So I think there's opportunity. Yeah, and I think there's opportunities there. I think there is, but I would just be happy with progression. 8th, 9th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th would be absolutely fine with me. So I think
anything that's a progression on last year, I think year on year, even if it's one place, that's absolutely fine. You know, it's not people forget how recently we weren't even in this league. You know, it's apart from Leicester, you know, it's unheard of, you know, for teams to persistently push for Europe who are outside the top 6. You know, Leicester are now a club which I would class as a team in the top 6 because they're consistently pushing for it. West Ham, give it another season or two. If they can replicate what they did last year, they're a team pushing for top 6. But to replicate that for 3 years is no easy thing to do. And you know, it's going to take a lot from us, and we might have to keep spending for a few more windows. It might take another 200-300 million. But if that's what it's going to take, it doesn't matter what manager we bring in. You have to add the quality. And you can see with teams like Arsenal where they've done the wrong pieces of business, teams like Spurs that haven't really done any business. You know, you can see the gap, the bridge between your Man Cities and your Chelseas and your Man Uniteds now, who have spent a bit of money this window, you know, on Varane and Sancho. They're going to start slipping away from the rest of them again. Do I think Arsenal push for the top 6 this year? No. Do I think Spurs push for top 6 this year? Cusp, you know, but it's not guaranteed top 6 football. You know, you can't have Son and Kane assisting each other every game, you know, and it's one of those things where it's very easy to be optimistic and it's very easy to fall into a negative trap with when you're upset. You know, when you're upset, if Villa have had a bad game and we've lost, it's very easy to target people and blame and, you know, and not look at the bigger picture of, you know, where we've been. And I've been guilty of that in the past where, you know, Al Ghazi's had a stinker and I'm like, I don't want him to wear the shirt again. And then, you know, he had that spell in December where he just literally couldn't stop scoring. You know, it's one of those where it's football. Your emotions get the better of you. It happens. It's okay to be annoyed. It's okay to want to whack your head off a wall. That's why it's the game that we love so much, because the emotion that comes with it.
That's gas, because that's almost a brilliant segue like we talked about before. And because I had a novelty kind of a joke question for you, and it was going to be, what game week do you think that the fans will first shout Smith out? That was
do you want me to be honest?
Don't say Sunday morning.
But we've got I mean, it all depends for me on how well these first 3 fixtures go, because I genuinely think 7 to 9 points is what we should be aiming for, assuming that we've got all of our signings out, you know, minus Leon Bailey. I understand him, you know, not partaking or for whatever reason. If we don't see him on the weekend, I understand the reasons behind it. You know, he's had a long summer. And he's been in isolation. So I don't know if he's been doing any training in isolation. I don't know to what extent they're allowed. But we should be thumping Watford. We should be Brentford, I think. Yesterday, on the podcast I did yesterday, I did say that I think Brentford might be one of the teams that go down. I think it'll be hit and miss. I think they'll either have a season like Leeds did last year or go straight back down. But they're clever with their business. They're clever what they do. I think we should beat them. And then Newcastle, I think we should get at least a point from Newcastle. At least. I mean, it's at home, so realistically, we should get 3 points from that. But that, again, that's me being over-optimistic about the business we've done in the window.
Yeah, and you know what? If you can't be over-optimistic on a Wednesday, Tuesday night when we're recording this before start of the season, when are you going to get optimistic? You know, so
Content
I like
injection.
that. Exactly. Yeah, I genuinely believe that 9 points are you know, it could very possibly happen. You know, 9 points. But then again, that was the reason it was a kind of a carefully loaded question, because I also believe, let's just say we came out of our first 3 games with 2 points. Like, is it like it's
That's
not
when
panic?
you're going to hear Smith out.
Yeah, it's not panic stations, I think, is what it is at that stage. But
No,
you
I
know,
agree.
it'd just be interesting.
You will get it though. You will get the Smith outs. I mean, if
Yeah.
we lose to Watford, you'll probably see a whisper or 2 of them. But I'm optimistic, mate.
I got some joke t-shirts made up here. We were going to put them on sale at some stage with the podcast logo on the front and Smith in on the back of it. And every so often I just throw it on. It's just like a sample. I throw it on and I might wear it to the shop, and I'm wondering if people are looking at me going, who the hell is Smith? And what's the story there? Is
Smith
that like
in.
something? Yeah, Smith in. Yeah. But no, I'm all for him. I hope I don't see any issues with him staying around for the season this season, unless there's something absolutely catastrophic. And I'm full of the beans of life about this team going forward. And like I say, I think 7th to 10th is the sweet spot for this team, and that's where realistically speaking, that's where kind of Villa belong, because that's where we've kind of lived in the Premier League more often than not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who do you think is going to be the whole end hero? Who's going to, is there somebody going to emerge from the shadows now, emerge from Jack's shadow and really take the team by the scruff of the neck this season?
I have said that I think John McGinn's going to win Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Point to prove. Took a bit of flack last year.
Yeah.
He's openly come out and said he's fitter than he's ever been. And I think it's important that we have someone on top form with a high work rate in the middle of the field. We need it. We really need some ball winners. This year, we've really got to, tighten up in the middle of the field. I think Danny Ings is going to be a whole end hero, but I also think I've said that I think Ings and Watkins are going to do 40 goal contributions between the pair of them.
Take that.
I genuinely believe goals and assists. I genuinely think they do 40 between them. I really do. Of contributions, goals and assists. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, and I couldn't disagree with you. Absolutely. I have gone on record as saying I think Ezri Konsa will get the plaudits he deserves this season. I think he's going to be somebody, but I think the whole end hero that I think we all want and we all need is an absolutely batshit crazy Bertrand Traore down the right hand wing. That's what I think. That's what I think we need. Somebody I want all of his no look passes, no look raking.
Do you know what? I just
balls across the
realised we
field.
haven't actually seen him at Villa Park.
Yeah, we haven't seen him
I
in
didn't
Villa
get the
Park.
ballot for the Chelsea game. I can't remember if he played for that Chelsea game or not, but I watched the youth game, which I think was the day after or a week after. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually seen him live either, which makes it even more exciting.
Yeah.
Because, you see, you've got me buzzing now to be back at Villa Park.
And when we talk about depth, he's somebody that people just, I'm not going to say right off, but sometimes people forget and they go, oh yeah, Emi Buendia is just definitely going to start in the right. And Leon Bailey's just definitely going to start in the left. But, we spent 18 million on Bertrand Traore last year, and he came up with goods for, I can't remember what it was, it's 6, 7, 8, 9 goals last season or something along those lines.
And some of them were spectacular.
Yeah,
he had some magic. Don't get me wrong, he had some woeful moments. He's that player that either makes you want to put your head through your wall or makes you realise why you absolutely bleed this game. There's no in between with him. It's either he's doing you nothing or you absolutely love him to bits. And that's the beauty of him as a player. You don't know if he's going to have a stinker or an absolute blinder. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I can't wait now. I really can't wait.
Excellent. Well, Ty, listen, keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate you taking the time to pop on the podcast.
You are very welcome.
You are a beacon of positivity, and keep up the great work with Villa Spaces piece. And if we finish between 7th and 10th or even higher than that, I think we'll all be happy bunnies by the end of the season. But you're a gentleman for coming on. Everybody, I don't even need to say follow Ty Bracey. He's the only Ty Bracey on Twitter.
Hang on, let's stop. Let's not plug me. Let's plug. Oh, this way. Mirrors. Is it this way? Does that look right? There we go. Let's plug you. You're doing bits, Neil. Everybody loves you. Hey, I've had so many people request that I get you on Spaces, which we will do at some point, 100%. But you are the most lovable person, and I think you're probably the only Villa fan related content creator I haven't seen somebody said something bad about. Genuinely, and I genuinely believe that. You're such a lovely guy, and you deserve all the subscribers in the world. Not me. Don't follow me. Follow Neil. End of conversation. For the love of Paul McGrath podcast. Like, subscribe, comment. Let's get this guy where he deserves to be with the big boys. 100%, mate.
Thanks very much, Ty. You said haven't heard anyone say a bad word about me. Wait till then they see me dance. I'll fucking the unsubscribe button will be. I'll be going mad.
Okay, let's set something now then. Yeah, if we finish between 7th and 10th, you have to do a dance for me on camera when we do a end of season review. Deal?
100%. You know what we'll do? I'll try and get over for the last home game of the season. I'll do it outside Villa Park.
Wow. Okay, and you're going to record it and put it on Twitter as well?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'll put it on all social media. I've no problem doing that.
Love that, mate. Thanks for having me, Neil.
No matter. Thank you so much, Ty. So thanks very much to everybody who contributed to the show today. I really enjoyed talking to Josh, to Pete, to Ty. And I suppose I enjoyed talking to Paddy as well. I'm only joking. Paddy's always a joy to talk to. Here's to a fantastic season for Aston Villa, a season of hope, of joy, of excitement, of intrigue, of mystery. And I think that Aston Villa are going to push on this season. But you know what? There's only one way to know for sure, and that's to watch it. And I can't wait, starting this Saturday against Watford. So thanks very much to everybody for everything you do for the podcast. Thank you so much for all the likes, the shares, the positive energy that you guys throw out there on Twitter, and and the nice messages that you guys send me. I cannot wait until Saturday for this game versus Watford. iPhone will be watching at 3 p.m. We'll be back with a team sheet tantrum an hour beforehand, and we'll be here directly after the game for a post-match review as well. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Here's the start to something great for Aston Villa, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.